Camera inspection Rose Road at 937 East Amelia Avenue. It's going to be Phoenix, Arizona 85014. We've been asked to come out and inspect the condition of the sewer line before purchase of the home. Pull the camera out here. Sewer line is going to be your main waste line, anything minimum 3 inches in diameter and up, which you can legally attach a toilet to and send down solids, paper and waste. Just for point of reference, it's going to be a 3-inch fitting right here. Now, I not only want to view the sewer line, but I want to pick up as much of the sanitary system or waste system as we can while on site. So, without causing any damage inside, because we have a couple cleanouts inside, one under the master lav. We've got one in the laundry room and then one in the master bathroom. We've got a ton of roof vents that we're going to be dropping down, and there should be vents in line with those cleanouts, which will help us avoid having to cut around and remove cover plates that may be painted in the wall. Now it looks like we have an updated plastic system. I will tell you the original piping for a home of this age would fall into the category of what I refer to as pre-plastic era. We didn't switch over to predominant use of plastic for sewer lines and sanitary systems throughout the Greater Valley area until the early 70s. Before that, we were looking at cast iron under our structures, and outside of our structures, potentially cast iron, concrete, clay, and or Orangeburg. Obviously, the plastic would be updated. Plastic is the far better material we're using today, with a general life expectancy of 100 years. Now, that said, we can still run into a variety of issues ranging from compressed sections to shifting at joints, offset joints. We can run into stress fractures, holes in the pipe. We can run into root intrusions or other obstructions like construction debris. And we can also run into, and what's going to be one of the more common structural issues we tend to run into with plastic, it's what we refer to as bellies in the industry. And that's going to be low spots that form from poor support during the installation process. It's important that a plastic line is supported with rebar stakes every couple of feet, or else the line can and often will buckle under pressure during the backfilling and compaction process, resulting in what we refer to as bellies. Now, even with supporting a line properly, we can still end up with small pockets of settling, and supporting it properly is going to be every couple of feet. But you're only going to be looking at a couple of feet of water and a fraction of an inch in depth, which is really not a huge issue. It's the larger areas of pooling that can become a nuisance for a couple different reasons. One being the slowing of flush material, meaning paper and waste, which could create a dam in the line and back up the line. And two, bellies are going to act like grease traps, meaning any grease that does enter the line is going to make its way down to a belly, where it'll get trapped in the water. The grease that is, it'll rise to the top of the water line, and it will harden layer after layer, eventually choking the line off with hard white grease. Now, my camera lens is sitting approximately a 1/4 inch off the base of the pipe, which is important to note because that gives us a point of reference as to the size and or severity of an issue if we just so happen to run across one, which it looks like we're dealing with a smashed section of pipe right here. That's not good. Looks like the pipe got crushed somehow. So this is a big issue right here. We got a smashed section of pipe. This is probably a newer pipe, but the problem is we can't get beyond this point because, well, the pipe's smashed. So we definitely need a spot repair already. I want to run a little bit of water to clean up the lens and then snap a couple pictures here, and then we're going to move on. Unfortunately, this is as far as we're going to get from our clean out. This is going to be along the side of the home. But as I said, stress fractures, compressed sections, it's really rushed work. You know, you have utilities put in, and then you have other contractors come out and do landscaping and such, and people don't locate where utilities are before they start working, and that's when you get problems like this occurring. It is unfortunate, but rather common these days. All right, popped up on the roof. Down below here is where our clean out is, just outside of our guest bathroom closest to the front of the house. Looks like we're running out and then we're turning. Two issues so far. One, this is a rather shallow line, and so it should certainly be investigated by a plumber when they come out for the repair, which is the second issue, as to whether this was plumbed properly or not. At our fracture about 30 feet out, 25, 30 feet out, or our smashed section, which is the second problem. It's a straight shot running parallel with the home. Let me hand it. It's Turn it parallel with the back of the house. We run into a compressed section where the pipe has been smashed, in need of a repair. We're unable to get past it. Keep in mind, that's going to be a 3 or 4 inch line. My camera head is this big, size of about $50, which means that line is incredibly smashed. Unfortunately, we can't see what's going on beyond that point. I went ahead and located that. I'm going to wrap up the inspection with what I refer to as a walkthrough video. It's just a better vantage point. Sometimes it's difficult to understand exactly what I'm viewing and from where, from the perspective of my sewer camera. And so when we jump around a lot, which we're going to be doing, dropping down numerous vents, and then we have specifically location findings so far for that compressed section that's in need of repair. I like to accompany the inspection video with a walkthrough video, so there is nothing lost in translation. But one, we have an extremely shallow sewer line, and that fact should be investigated by a plumber. Two, we need a repair on that compressed section. And so what we're going to do is drop down the vents above that bathroom, which would ultimately take us out to the same spot. Now, not all these vents are going to be feasible vents for viewing, because simply put, they're not going to drop straight down. This one looks like it's just been filled in or is covered up. Now, we've got an abundance of vents up here, and I'm not sure which ones are functional and not. It doesn't look like this is a functional vent above the guest bathroom, and if this is in fact supposed to be a functional vent, the vent is sealed up, which is a problem. So any vent that is sealed up or doesn't appear to be functioning should be investigated by a plumber to find out if that is in fact part of the current functioning system, or is an updated vent but an old vent before work was done. So we got another vent above that same bathroom. First vent we just dropped down right here on the side of the home is sealed up. It's covered, which is a red flag. Now, as I said, not all vents are going to be feasible access points for dropping below ground. Looks like that's the lav line. Here's the sewer line. This should head right out to the clean out, which is going to be right here that we were just viewing from. Now, interestingly enough, there's a vent above the kitchen. Now we have an island sink. The island sink, clearly don't have a wall for a vent to go all the way up to the roof. Nor do you have access to that vent to make sure it's plumbed properly. Furthermore, there's no clean out access point to the drain line. So far, the sewer line or system coming off our guest bathroom should be investigated by a plumber to make sure that is the proper depth. There needs to be a repair on the side of the home. We've got one vent that's sealed up. That should be determined. That is not part of the functioning system. We have no clean out for the kitchen sink drain line, nor do we have access to the venting to make sure it's done properly. We've got a lot going on, even though we have updated plastic. Unfortunately, workmanship's not what it used to be, and projects are rushed, and that's when we start running into all these issues. So this is going to be the vent above the kitchen. I assume that at some point the line was replaced along with a vent, and they've since again change things to an island sink, but once again, no access to confirm that the venting is done properly on the island sink for that secondary drain line, nor was a clean out installed for that line, which there absolutely should be one for the purpose of cleaning in the future if ever needed. Still, I would like to drop down this vent if possible and see what's going on. Fortunately, I'm not able to get through this vent. I want to repeat again, not all vents are going to be feasible access points for viewing purposes, but I like to drop down as many access points as I can, pick up as much information as I can. At this point, we're going to be moving to the second guest bathroom. This is the back side of the home. We've got two 2-inch vents, both updated plastic. Almost looks like they switched to corrugated plastic in here, like a cheaper material in the wall. It's possible that's part of the exhaust system, but nonetheless, not going to be able to get through this vent. So it doesn't look like the vents are going to be very prominent. It means we are going to be using the cleanouts in the home. I was having to avoid that by direct access through vents, but that is not happening. All right, so we got 3 more vents, 2 above the master and 1 in between the master and the laundry room, and that would be facilitating the master lavs and the washer. And none of our vents here are really helping all that much. So it looks like some of these might be for exhaust. That is not the typical material that you would use for your sanitary system, your drain system, or waste system, I should say. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of question marks out here that should really be investigated by a plumber, along with the obvious repair that needs to be done. This is going to be where our master toilet is. There is a clean out there. Happening here. Looks like that might be where the clean out is. I'm going to open that up just in case. So this is for the sewer line here, and this is going to be where the master toilet is. Really, so far, this is our only direct access to the line. It almost looks like there's a rag stuck in there, or a sock. Probably where the clean out is, and I'm going to pop that off to see if that's the case. If not, that should also be looked into by a plumber to make sure that we don't have a secondary drain line or vent that is obstructed with what looks to be a rag or a sock once again. See, we've got some debris along the bottom of the pipe. Construction debris that we're just kind of pushing along here. We're starting to see a lot more. You can see that. There's just too many problems going on right now for this to be in even close to good shape or even in fair condition. Just because we have updated plastic doesn't mean that we're in. I rate things good, fair, poor. And right now I'm really dwindling between fair and poor. Just because we have updated plastic doesn't mean we're not running into a slew of issues. Not only issues, but just question marks as to what is going on. Got standing water in the line, indicating that we most likely, I don't think we necessarily have a belly, but we definitely have some debris in the line. We're not coming out of it either, which is really concerning. Alright, so we made it out to our clay lateral transition along the back property line. We viewed out from the master, end of line in the master bathroom, all the way out to our clay lateral transition along the back property line. And what we're seeing is a lot of standing water and debris in the line. And I don't want to assume there's a belly in the line because it's clear that there's a bunch of debris in there. And it's quite possible that there's standing water in there because we have a lot of debris in the line creating a bit of a dam. But all that needs to be cleaned out and it needs to be re-examined. So there's a lot that needs to be done here, and the system needs to be re-inspected. You got a repair done. You got questionable venting in some areas. One vent is blocked off. We don't know if it's functional above the guest bathroom. We've got an extremely shallow sewer line coming off the guest side, which means the plumbing, is questionable. You need to have a certain depth to install a toilet, and it doesn't seem like they reach that depth. So that needs to be investigated as well. You need to have the sewer line cleaned out of a lot of construction debris. There's the city sewer main out in the alley. So we actually, on the plus side, we made it from end to end, but your paper and waste is going to struggle to do so. So, yeah, I mean, at this point, I really think we're leaning towards, and this looks like original Orangeburg in here too. So not only, they replaced a lot of stuff, but they left original failing pipe in there. Orangeburg has a general life expectancy of 60 to 65 years. This house has well exceeded that. And you're lucky if it lasts that long. So we're definitely in the poor category. Now how much Orangeburg is in here is unknown because there's a bunch of debris in the line. But for whatever reason, they did a ton of work and then they tied back into the worst material we could possibly use in the past. Cast iron, concrete, and clay are all still used in certain settings today. Orangeburg's not. When we switched over to plastic, we kicked that stuff to the wayside because it was a terrible material. But yet they decided to leave it installed. Now the problem is, you can see we're diving below water. It only looks like a little bit. It looks like for whatever reason they left a small strip of Orangeburg. It's possible that it's probably running right under the back property line. But whether that's running into the alley or not, it still needs to be replaced. Right? Whether the builder or the contractor just assume that was the city's responsibility is irrelevant to the fact that it still needs to be replaced. And then we got a bunch of standing water here, which I can only assume it's not very deep, is because of debris in the line. All right, we've got one more vent I want to drop down. That's going to be for the master lavs and washer drain line. And if that is a straight shot, then we won't need to access the clean out in the laundry room because we should pass right by that. However, I do want to attempt to access or view from the clean out under the lab in one of the guest bathrooms, the back one. And I want to pop the clean out off in the master because looks like there's a rag or a sock or something in there. And if that's not where the clean out is, when we open that up, well then that also needs to be addressed by a plumber because it could be blocking up a secondary drain line. We saw that on the way down earlier. Got a bit of moisture in my camera right now as we pull back up, so we're not going to get a clear view of that. But we saw that on the way down. We passed right by. All right, finally, the 2-inch roof vent above the master and laundry room. That's going to be once again for the lab line and the washer drain line. And this too is dropping down into, it looks like, I don't even know what this is, if this is corrugated plastic. But this is not the standard material that would be used for this. That looks like metal, corrugated metal. The venting needs to be looked into by a plumber. This needs to be, they need to find out if these vents are in fact tying into the sanitary system, and if they are, whether this material is even an optional material for the venting. I personally have never run across what we're seeing right here for venting for a sanitary system. So there's just so many things going on here. We've got questionable plumbing coming off the guest bathrooms because of the depth. It's extremely shallow. We have a smashed section of pipe that needs to be repaired for the sewer line coming off the guest bathrooms. We have debris in the sewer line that needs to be cleared. We've got a short section of original Orangeburg sewer pipe on the backside of the property that needs to be replaced. We've got questionable venting that needs to be investigated by a plumber. There's just too many things going on for this to be in fair condition. Too many things that need to be addressed by a plumber for this to be in fair condition, in my opinion. And I want to point out, I don't do any plumbing work. I stepped out of service plumbing so that I could give honest, objective, clear inspections, videos. I basically stepped into the consulting work and stopped doing the stuff that makes a lot of money so that you guys had some honesty coming your way, so that you weren't feeling pressured into doing work. And there's just way too much that needs to be investigated by a plumber for this to be even considered to be in fair condition. Right now, you've got a multitude of issues that could lead to a backed up sewer line, a smashed section of sewer. This is just the sewer line, not your secondary drain lines. We have a smashed section on the other side of the house. We've got construction debris in the line, and everything ties into, after both those lines merge, everything ties into original Orangeburg. Even though it's a short section, it's compressed, it's chipped, it's fading away, it looks terrible. It should have been replaced a long time ago, and for whatever reason it was left in. I can only assume it's because the contractor or builder assumed that was a responsibility of the city, but as I said, it's irrelevant whose responsibility it is. It needs to be replaced so that you don't purchase a home and flood out in your home. So I'm going to pause now, and then we're going to pick up what we can from a couple cleanouts inside the home. Oh, and furthermore, beyond the sewer line issues, there's venting that needs to be investigated. Dropping down several vents, and it's transitioning to almost looks like corrugated metal, or honestly, that's why it needs to be looked into by a plumber. I've never seen that used for a sanitary system before. We also have unknown venting for the kitchen sink drain line because there's no access to the vent to confirm it's done properly. Furthermore, we have no clean out to the kitchen sink drain line for access for cleaning and viewing purposes, which there should be one. If you have an island sink, you should have a clean out. If you've done work on a drain line, specifically a kitchen sink drain line, in the last 30 years, it should have a clean out, and there isn't one. All right, moved inside. This is going to be a guest bathroom on the back side of the home. Got a 2-inch clean out underneath the sink. This is the sewer line and where we're dropping it into the line along the side of the home. And we're running into construction debris. Why am I not surprised? This looks like it's going to be just beyond the compressed section that needs to be repaired. But we're still missing a section of the sewer line coming off the guest side, because not only are we running into smashed section of pipe, but we're also running into a rather large chunk of construction debris, as you can just see right here. It's frustrating. It's really frustrating when we come out to, or when I come out to a house, speaking in plural, and I see an updated plastic system for the most part that's just riddled with issues. So this is going to be added to the list of things that need to be taken care of by a plumber for this to be a decent functioning system. Right now you are at extreme high risk of the sewer line backing up, coming off of every bathroom, because every bathroom has its own independent issue. One, the first guest bathroom towards the front of the house, we run into a smashed section of pipe. Two, guest bathroom off the back side of the house, we're running into a large chunk of construction debris, which you can see in the video right here. 3 going off the master. We've got construction debris in the line. And that's the better of the 3, mind you. Construction debris in the line. But after both of these lines come together, the one off the guest side and the one off the master side, we run into Orangeburg off the back side of the property that's in terrible shape and should be replaced. Doesn't matter if it's an inch of Orangeburg or 3 feet of Orangeburg, it's all the same. You don't need a big obstacle to experience recurring backups. All right, go ahead and move into the laundry room. Go to your dryer right there. Got a 2-inch clean out behind the dryer. This should be for the lab line in the master, along with the washer and drain line. It's going to be a short run over to the sewer line in the master bathroom. We have a clean out. As I said, I want to pick up as much as we can with the access points that we have. Looks like that's what we're tying into the sewer line right there. We'll take it out a little further just in case. You can see all the white along the bottom. I can only assume that's from dumping stuff into the line. Doesn't look like calcium deposit to me. Looks like just dumping construction material into the line. And we know that happened because we see a system that's riddled with debris. Alright, this is going to be well beyond the sewer line. We're in the sewer line for that matter. Pause for a sec. Alright, we pushed all the way out to the construction debris in the sewer line. Where we are right now, that's where it's in standing water. What we're going to do is come back here. Well into the sewer line. As anticipated, I mean, this was only going to be a couple of feet. But we were struggling to gain entry from the roof. So even if we're viewing something twice, even a third time and overlapping, I think that's more important than making assumptions and accidentally missing something. Which is the last thing we want to do. Alright, so finally we're going to move to the master bathroom. There's a 2-inch clean out to the side of the toilet. I want to go ahead and view from there. So as we've gone over, poor condition, just way too many things that are going on that needs to be addressed by a plumber. A multitude of things that I'm going to cover from a different vantage point in the inspection video. You can see how we have a flat bottom here because material was poured down, you know, whatever drain, maybe off the master side, and it caked the bottom of the pipe. And it's not like you're missing out a ton in the diameter and circumference of the pipe, but you shouldn't have construction debris in the line. Okay. As I said before, it doesn't look like calcium deposit. Alright, finally, our 2-inch clean out next to the master toilet. You can see we're just running into debris on the bottom. I can't even make the turn there because it's just completely filled in with what I can only assume is construction debris. If you add a clean out, that's an access point to the sanitary system. If it's filled in with debris, it's not an access point to the sanitary system. Something made its way in, I assume, from the master toilet. I think that's where things were getting dumped, which is what I can only conclude. And this vent, or excuse me, this clean out, I can't even make the turn, the bottom sweep, because it's obstructed. Now it looked like there was dropping down the vent, looks like there was something protruding out, as mentioned earlier, like a sock or a rag. And so all that needs to be looked into a plumber. There's just so many things. And I'm going to go over that in the above ground video.